So we've talked about the contributions, we talked about the new plans. Let's really start getting into the heart of retirement and the changes that have been made with required minimum distributions. Well, we talked about the original Secure Act that changed the RMDs from 70.5 to 72. The new Secure Act 2.0 that was just passed pushes that back an extra year. So for those of you who are turning 72 and would be subject to the required minimum distribution, that now has been pushed back to 73. So what that looks like, if you are now born in 1951 all the way through 1959, you do not have to take that basically distribution in that year that you turn 72. You're going to wait until you turn 73. One more provision they put in here. If you are 60 and older, now it is changed to age 75 that you're going to be waiting to take your required minimum distribution. Great news for many of you, because that can postpone and prolong when you need to take your required minimum distributions. Now, okay, let's kind of talk about this. First of all, we're going to come back to qualified charitable distributions because there's no changes to that, but there is one with age, but there's one change that we're going to be talking about a little later on. So I'll be coming back to that. But required minimum distributions. Why would Congress do this? Well, actually, it's smart in what they're talking about. And think about it this way. What they want to do is have more taxable income. Well, what is one way they can be doing that? They can drive up your tax brackets. So by compressing the amount of time that it takes for you to take money out of these accounts, what that does then is start to say, well, you're going to have to pay more in tax because we're going to be taking more out of these accounts by law as you get older. So now they can start saying, well, maybe we can't raise the tax brackets, but we can start raising the required amount of income that you're going to be receiving so that will drive you into a higher tax bracket. That's just one thought process that I had of why they would do something like this. And that also is coming back to say, well, there's a lot of side effects to this as well. One is that maybe you actually pass away before you take required minimum distributions out. That has a higher likelihood and chance of happening now. So that money goes to the kids, the grandkids. And as part of those inherited accounts, remember, there's a shortened window of time that they need to take money out of these types of retirement accounts. So it all comes back down to the taxation. But there's another element here that we can be doing. One of the other side effects to this is that we can actually be going through a lot more planning. So we can postpone when we have to take money out of these accounts, and that'll really provide planning opportunities. So really starting to think through those planning opportunities is going to be vitally important. Now, one note here, if you already are taking a required minimum distribution, you cannot stop. So if you were 70.5 on the original laws and you needed to take money out, you're not going to be able to stop and postpone it for this year. So this is only for the new required minimum distributions that are coming out, that if you are turning 72 this year, you can postpone it an additional year till 73. But what are our planning opportunities? Well, let's go back to this chart. And this is just another way of looking at that original chart that I showed you. Instead of how long does it take to grow the accounts, what we're going to do is take a look at what the tax drag does on our accounts. And so when we are looking at the different accounts, whether it's investments in equities or bond funds or the likes of alternative investments, it all comes back to the fact that taxes can have a huge drag on your performance. If we have a lower performance, it takes longer to double the money. Also, if we are taking money out as part of the required minimum distributions, the accounts could start spending down a lot sooner. Well, what we look for then are the opportunities. And with postponing taking those required minimum distributions, that allows us a lot of opportunities when it comes to all the tax efficient types of investments that we can be doing. So those tax efficient investments now come back down to, if we're in that taxable silo, maybe the investments that are not paying capital gains. Maybe they're not paying for different types of investment dividends or interest that's coming out of there. But we started talking about contributions into retirement accounts and the new types of accounts that were being created by the law. If we have a lot of money that's directed into those pre-tax, traditional 401ks, traditional 403b type accounts, we have a lot of money that's potentially going to be taxed when we have required minimum distributions. Well, what we can look at then is where you're at today and the taxation on your income today. And we can look at where you're at in the future. And we can start to look at the tax brackets that you're in. And what we can look at then is, since we have a longer period of time before you need to take your first required minimum distribution, well, now we can start looking at Roth conversions. You see, what we want to do then is take from those tax deferred accounts, your traditional 401ks, traditional IRA accounts, pay a little tax today and put it away into the Roth accounts that are growing tax free. So what that looks like is that we take a look at the buckets of taxation, or the brackets that you're in. So it may be that when you were working, you were in the 32 or the 35% bracket. But since you have stopped working, your income has gone down. So the taxable income has gone down, which means maybe you're in the 22% this year. And just maybe we're halfway through the 22% bucket or bracket. Well, we can be taking from the retirement accounts, those ones that we've never had tax before, pay a little tax, and we can start to fill up those buckets. So again, maybe we can fill up all of that 22% bucket. Or maybe with some planning, we can start to go down and take a look to see if it's going to be more advantageous to go into the 24% bucket as well. You see, those are some of the strategies that we look at here, how we can be taking from different accounts and putting them into tax-free accounts that are going to be growing in that manner, all by paying just a little tax today. And when we really broaden out the required minimum distribution age, that affords you the option. And that's what we're really looking for here, to see if the options are going to be beneficial.